Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joe with Smokin Joe's Pet Barbecue. On today's video, we're going to be making up some Mexican style chorizo sausages. Stay tuned. All right, let's go over the ingredients for our Mexican chorizo sausage. I'm starting with 20 pounds of pork, that's 9,080 grams, 90 grams of salt, 45 grams of black pepper, 54 grams of onion powder, 45 grams of garlic powder, 18 grams of oregano, 14 grams of thyme, 9 grams of ground clove, 5 ounces of a chile pasilla. So this is the pasilla chili, as you can see right here. It's got a nice red color, and these are very mild when it comes to the heat level. I'm also adding 2 ounces of a New Mexico chili. This one happens to be a hot chili. This one is a little bit darker in color, and they do vary in Scoville units. Again, this one is a hot one. I'm also using 2 ounces of chile ancho. Now this is a poblano pepper that's been dried up, and these also vary in heat levels. Sometimes they're sweet, sometimes these are really hot. Since I am going to be cold smoking these chorizo sausages, I am using 22.7 grams of a curing salt. So the last ingredient is 8 bay leaves that I ground up. I did use some of the salt for this recipe. I put it in my mortar and pestle along with the bay leaves, took the stems out and ground it down. And I got to tell you, this has an amazing floral aroma coming from it. So this is going to be tasty in our chorizo sausage. So one main ingredient that's missing from this recipe that your traditional Mexican chorizo has is vinegar. We are not going to be adding any vinegar to this recipe. So there are 2 reasons I'm not adding any vinegar to this recipe. Number 1, the vinegar really tenderizes the meat to the point where there is no texture on the chorizo. And number 2 is because the acid that's in the vinegar will actually eat through your sausage casing, and we do not want that. Trust me, I speak from experience. All right, so I'm gonna throw my chiles in some hot water, get them really nice and soft, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so this is one of 2 pork shoulders that I'm using for this recipe, and this is a bone-in pork shoulder. So I have got to take that bone out first. And I'm just gonna cut these down into cubes, small enough to fit down the throat of my grinder. All right, so while I take the bone out of this pork shoulder, I do want to talk a little bit about your traditional Mexican style chorizo. We like to have it in a couple of dishes. For breakfast, we like to eat it with huevos con chorizo. We also like to add chorizo to beans. Beans with chorizo is fantastic, but there are a ton of dishes, including taco dishes, that use chorizo. But I could never find a Mexican style chorizo in a sausage form that you can grill up. I'm using a flexible fillet knife to remove most of the meat from this bone. That's about as clean as it's gonna get. So I did calculate the bone into the weight of my meat, just in case you guys are wondering. The bones usually weigh about 8 ounces. So I deducted that from the total weight of the pork shoulders, and I have 20 pounds of meat left over. All right, so I'm gonna cut up this other pork shoulder, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I've got all the meat cubed up. I'm gonna pop this in my freezer for about 45 minutes, let it get really ice cold, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so our red chiles have been sitting in the hot water for about 45 minutes now. They are really nice and soft. So I've got my blender here. I'm just gonna toss them all in there. I'm also gonna add a little bit of this hot water, probably a cup of this. I wanna add as little water as possible. Now be careful, since we are using hot water, you want to blend this up starting on low first. Let's take a look at it. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more water. So 2 cups total, approximately. All right, I'm going to blend this on high for about 3 minutes, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so I just took the meat out of the freezer. As you can see, I have my grinder attachments in the freezer as well. Everything is ice cold. So I'm using a remote pedal to operate the power of my grinder, just in case you guys are wondering. So I'm using a 10mm die to grind up this meat because I do want some texture to this chorizo, unlike your traditional sausage that has a really fine grind. All right, here we go. All right, so we've reached the end of our grind. I'm gonna add about half a cup of crushed ice. So the reason I add the ice is because there's always a little bit of meat that gets stuck inside the grinder head. and the crushed ice will push it out. So here we go. There we go. There's our ice. All right, so it's time to add our spices to our ice cold meat. Now, just in case you're wondering why I didn't add these dry spices to the chili mix, is because I might not use all of our red chili, okay? That's the only reason. Here's our ground up bay leaf. This smells delicious. And our curing salt. All right, so I've got 6 cups of the red chili. And to start, I'm gonna add 3 cups. All right, my favorite part, mix it all together. All right, so I'm definitely gonna need some more of that red chili in here. So I'm gonna have my daughter add maybe 2 more cups and we'll go with that. All right, so we need a little bit more red chili. So I'm gonna add the last cup. Man, this smells so good already. Okay, so I've been mixing this for about 15-20 minutes and all the ingredients have come together and this smells absolutely delicious. So I got my meat out of the fridge. Now it's time to load up my stuffing canister. Make sure you pack it really nice and tight in there. All right, let's load up our canister. Drop that piston just a little bit. All right, let's screw on our horn. Got my casings here that have been sitting in warm water for about an hour now. We're using natural hog casings. I like to open up the casing with 2 fingers, dip it in the water, just to flush out your casing. I'm gonna spray some oil on our horn. Makes the casing slide nice and easy. All right, so I'm gonna lower the piston just a little bit more. Get that mixture to the tip of our horn. Tie our knot. I like to throw some ice on our tray just to keep everything ice cold. All right, let's stuff these bad boys up. Beautiful red color. All right, I'm gonna get these casings stuffed up and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, I've got all the casings stuffed up. The only thing left to do is to twist these bad boys up. I've got my tray measured at 6.5 and 7 inches. So I'm gonna go 7 inches on these. 7 inches, pinch, and twist. Just like that. You want to twist enough to tighten up the casing. So it's okay to leave your casings a little bit loose and get them nice and tight in this process right here. Do a couple more for you guys. All right, I'm gonna twist these up. I'm gonna pop them in my fridge overnight, and tomorrow morning, we'll throw them on the smoker. Stay tuned. All right, so it's the very next day, and I went ahead and took the links out of the fridge and separated them by using my kitchen shears and cutting right in between each link. Pretty simple process, but check out this really nice red color. That's exactly what I was after. You can see the fat in there, some of the meat. These are gonna be fantastic. So I ended up with a total of 61 links. I've got my Bison 1,000 gallon smoker running at 150 degrees. Let's head outside. All right, so I've got all the sausages loaded up. We're gonna give this a couple of hours again at 150 degrees. At that point, we'll come back, check on the color, the texture, and even get an internal temperature on my test sausage right here. Stay tuned. All right, so 2 hours into our cook, and this is what the sausages are looking like. They're still not firm, obviously at 150 degrees for 2 hours. So what I did next is I added 2 splits of wood into my firebox. I'm gonna run the temperature to 175 degrees for an hour and a half, let them smoke at that temperature, and I'll bring you guys right back. Stay tuned. All right, let's take a look at these sausages. So let me recap to where we're at right now. I did smoke these for 2 hours at 150 degrees, an hour and a half at 175 degrees, and they've been smoking at 225 degrees for about an hour. So these will be ready in about 15 minutes. Once they hit 150 degrees internal, I'm gonna pull them off, take them inside, flush them under cool water, then I'm gonna put them in an ice bath and let them rest. I'll see you guys inside. Stay tuned. All right, so 30 minutes later, and I pulled the sausages off. Now I did rinse them in cool water a couple of times just to cool down the sausages. Next, I'm gonna add some ice to our sausages to cool them down completely. So the reason I add ice to my sausages is to rapidly cool them down, and it really stops the fat wherever it's at inside the sausage. So if you have fat inside the sausage, that's where it's gonna stay. It's really gonna keep the fat from coming to the surface or wanting to come to the surface, and it could leach out on you. So in my experience, I've also seen where the ice bath helps with that really nice snap on your casing. All right, so these sausages are gonna cool down for about 30 minutes. At that point, I'm gonna go outside and raise the temperature on my smoker to 275 degrees. I'm gonna grab a few of these, cook them up, and I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so the sausages are ready after only 30 minutes back on my smoker. And check this out, really nice and plump, juicy sausages. Let's cut into it and see how we did. These are really nice and firm, check this out. And they smell absolutely amazing. Look at that, nice and juicy. That's a texture that I wanted right there. Not a super fine sausage. Look at that. Let's give it a taste. All right, let's give this Mexican chorizo a try and see how we did. Check that out. It smells so good in here. Here we go. All right, so this Mexican style chorizo has some amazing flavors. The smoke flavor is fantastic, but I gotta tell you, those Mexican flavors are coming through perfectly on our chorizo sausage. This is delicious. Thank you for watching this video. There's gonna be a link to my channel down inside the description box of this video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Until next time, Joe with Smokin Joe's Pit BBQ. See ya.